Hello, my friends. It is I, Jinsu. I hope all y'all have been doing well. Thank you again for tuning to another video of mine. I know it's been a little here and there, but hey, that's what soliloquies are. And so, right now, I'm going to be going over today's topic about sustaining the ego, i.e., the sense of self within a society or within groups of people. And so, as you can see with the title and with the board, I'm going to go over the pessimism, the hubris, and the humility in between, how it leads to understanding and a sustained sense of ego. And I mean it in a sense where I did a little experiment throughout the month of January where I truly got to see different aspects of the self, or at least of myself, and I somewhat used other people as primary subjects of like what the pessimism looked like, what does hubris look like, and how to leave it with humility. And so this first came on mainly because, well, first I got this. I was influenced by the idea of Sigmund Freud, idea of the id, the ego, and superego, which in there it talks about the. I'm sorry, I can't get. No, I'm gonna keep it in. It was the id, the ego, and superego, where he talks about how he breaks apart the sense of self, and where the id is the primal function of the like person of the ego, mainly concerned like with cardinal or immediate gratification. The superego is the altruistic grandeur, the one distinct grandeur. I'm really butchering this, but the ego, regular ego, is the mediator in between, making sure that the id is satisfied with immediate gratifications. The superego is being maintained or not being too overstimulated with the ideas of grandeur and then altruism and all that. The idea with the pessimism, and hubris, and humility takes on the same format, in where the pessimism I have in today's topic, pessimism works as a way of sustaining the sense of self in a society, in a group. So say, with the ego, we all want to focus on ourselves, but yet I have what is framed as pessimism. It brings on reality onto the self, so that one does not only acknowledge themselves, but acknowledge that you're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. And then I have hubris here as my sense of grandeur, as in a sense of I am that guy. This is so unprofessional, but the hubris acts as my sense of delusion, right? It acts as the sense of the what if. Because with pessimism, it works in a way. I'm going back and forth. Please bear with me, y'all. Please bear with me. I'm doing one cut. This is technically the second cut, but I'm gonna do one cut. Pessimism, it lowers the ego into a sense of where it no longer acknowledges itself, but other people around you. At least for me, the pessimism when I did my little experiment, pessimism made me understand, or made me realize, forced me to feel as if there's no longer an I, it's only them, if that makes sense. I no longer saw me, or was interested in the I. If I was no longer interested in the I, who I am, who I want to do. And hubris acts in the opposite direction, where the I become delusional, where the I have that sense of importance, as you can say. And the humility, I have it as my mediator between the pessimism and hubris. But I'm going to go into what I did for the experiment to get the understanding I have right now. And so, please bear with me with this. And I apologize for the little rough intro, but hopefully I can pick it up as we go on. Okay, so, with the little experiment I've done, how it first started, was brought about, was me typically as a person. Me typically as a person, I would not boast, right? so much of my stuff happened in my life where I came to understanding, of course, pride come before the fall and everything. I'm like, okay. So I led to a sense of not underestimating myself, but whenever I'm within a group of people. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. One more thing. All of this comes together to help the ego function within a society. That's the main purpose, right? For the ego to be sustained within a group of people in a group of society. That's the whole experience, thingy with this. So, for me, I'm the type of person within a group. I know my capabilities. I have high expectations for myself, and so I want to achieve those things, right? Yeah. So does everybody. But how I present myself to others before, I will always diminish myself or talk badly about myself, about my skills, even though people can clearly see it doesn't reflect it. So say like, I'll say, oh, we're going to the gym, how much weight can you lift? Oh, I say, shit, 5 pounds. Go to the gym, I'm doing fucking 45, whatever, what you may call it. Like, they can clearly see, but that's only if I'm able to show them. Unless I'm able to show them and people can see, they can only go by what I say. And so, this experiment started because for a while, I would underestimate myself, as I said before, to other people, within a group of people, to a society. I did that as a defense mechanism. It was my sense of defense mechanism, so that I wouldn't be hurt if I ever failed to meet that bar. That's where that came from. And so, over time, this carried on into be a bad habit at that. Until, one day, I was talking to a group of friends I had, and we were on a game, and so after a while, like, hey yo, let's switch the game to a competitive game. It was Valorant, guys, it was Valorant. And so, within a group of friends, and typically, I would say I'm a pretty good player. Freaking, the game I play, I wouldn't say I recently got into it, but whatever. Okay, I need to stay on track. The game is Valorant, and I'm a good player on it. Objectively speaking, I'm a good player on it. But playing the game, like talking, I'm like, oh no, I'm a shitter, bro. I can't do yada. Freaking, bro, I'm bottom frag. And so, over time, I would just keep saying that, even though when we play, on average, I'll freaking either be second place or first. For me, I play controllers and sentinels, so typically I don't get the chance to top frag like that. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But I do my part. And so, it goes on. One day, one of my friends said, yo, let's hop on Valorant. Let's play comp. I'm like, okay, bet. But one person said, but no. Not literally like that, but essentially like that. Freaking, and the reason why, because freaking, he doubted my skill. And something was like, my ego was hurt from that, of course. But what didn't make sense was, there was a contradiction. I was upset with the person, though I had no reason to be upset with them, because they were only going by what I was telling them, right? I played the game with them before. They see me play. They know my skill. But it is what it is. When Colin was mentioning, like, nah. And so, with that brought about my anger, in a sense. Freaking, I guess I need to format this a little bit better. I'm sorry. But right now, I'm gonna have it, that brought about my anger, my pessimism. Because of my pessimism, interacting with my humility, or really I should say my ego, the ego and humility, I'm gonna have it act as interchangeably. When a pessimism and humility interacts alone without the hubris intervening to be added on, that led to my anger, or will lead to anger in anybody's case. Because the humility has a sense of pride that it needs to maintain. The sense of self it knows it has within a group of people. Pessimism makes you acknowledge that you're not the only one in the group, but humility has to be sustained. The ego has to be sustained. And so when these two interact along with the hubris, anger, even though I kept talking shit about myself, but I could back up what I was saying. I will achieve what I was saying. The fact that I was doubted, the ego was not sustained, and so anger came about. And so there was that first initiated this all thought experiment. And so that led me to go on, okay, what can be a sufficient additive so that the humility can be sustained, the ego can be sustained within a group to be a complete person. And so time went on, and then one day I went to a PlayStation party. You ever had, and it was just one of those days like, okay, we had our game session, and it was just like a vibe time, bro. You ever just been on like the PlayStation 4 party chat, and you just fucking chilling on the home screen, and everybody just talking? It was like that type of situation. And so one day we're all chilling, freaking he's random to me, but an extra guy joined the party, and we're like, hey, what's up, yada. And we typically don't do this, at least not since like high school, but we got into anime debates, right? And so one of the guy that just joined, he'll basically saying, he didn't say this, but it was like, yo, who will win? Goku versus Naruto type shit. And so we go back and forth, and so so on and so on. But the thing with this person was, this man was delusional, bruh. Some of the stuff he was saying, people would give out strong arguments against it, but it was just not clicking. But you know, I had to come through and give my 2 cents, like, all right, you got it, because I'm that guy for real. But one thing with during the whole back and forth for our debate, it truly exemplified the hubris in at least that person. He's not a bad person or anything like that, but it wasn't just that. After the little debate, he would go on to talk about, like, say, if he would like say in certain situations how he can do X, Y, and Z perfectly. And of course, everybody should have a sense of like, I can do this, I can do that, I can achieve this. But it got to the point where it was just straight up delusional, right? To the point where like, all right, let's say you wanted to build a computer, right? He's like, I can build a computer, I've done it before. And we're like, no, build it from scratch, from the plastic to the bolts, everything. And like, I got that. He does not have that. He doesn't have that. And so, with the hubris, what the hubris does to on its own is the sense of delusionment. To say I alone stand above it. I alone am the exception, the honored one, stupid ass. But no, literally, that's what I'm going with the hubris. The hubris acts in accordance with where it focuses on the I. It acknowledges the others, but I am more important. What I have to say, it goes. And then in whatever situation, the delusions feeds. He feeds into his own delusions, right? And in this case, delusions are not a bad thing. I'm not trying to portray the delusions of the hubris as bad. It's only bad when it's not being fed by the pessimism. I'll go into that in a second. So, how I have this set up with my own hubris, I remember I was at work, how the hubris interact with the humility, and how it leads to content if it not being fed by pessimism. At work, one day I found something. I had a funny joke I wanted to tell to my friends. Let me get back to the screen. I had a funny joke I wanted to tell my friends once I got back. Objectively to me, I can't say objectively, subjectively to me, it was hilarious. And so it should have been funny to them. I found it funny. I found it hilarious. I go to the PlayStation party, tell the joke, it didn't land. And so my delusions were shattered in a sense. And so the sense of self that the hubris created, the ego that was created between the hubris and the humility, while being fed by the reality of the pessimism, led to contempt because they didn't understand the joke. It was on them that messed it up, right? And so how I set it up was humility. hubris feeds delusions into the humility, and the humility actually supposed to eat it up, to eat up the idea and actually entertain it. That's what it does. The hubris feeds delusions of self-grandeur, and the humility entertains it to feel the sense of ego and feel the sense of self within a group of people, a sense of itself, so that the ego is not lost within the group. It has to maintain, the humility has to maintain the ego within the group. And to do that, it interacts with hubris. But doing that alone with these two leads to contentment. Because then the ego is not being fueled by the rationality of pessimism. So how this really all work? How to get it all work. The humility / ego needs to be maintained. The humility maintains the ego in a rational sense. So I guess I would say this is the rationality of the ego. Humility interacts with both pessimism and hubris. Pessimism acknowledges the group. Acknowledges the group that you're not the only one. You're not the only one. While the hubris feeds delusion of grandeur to the hubris to entertain it, to make it understand that I am still important, that I'm still an individual within the group. Yes, I still have group interest, but I still maintain myself and my own self-importance. And so, it needs to operate. Humility needs to mediate between these two polar opposites. These two cannot contact each other. They just fucking hate each other. They just stupid eyes. They can't interact directly with each other. They're just too contrasting. And so that's where the humility in between comes from and needs to do its purpose. And so once the humility comes into play and feeds on the rationality, the understanding for the pessimism, feeds off, entertains the hubris, entertains the sense of grandeur, it leads to understanding of I am within the group, but also we are the group. If that kind of makes sense. I'm going to continue this subject at another time too. The video get a little bit long, but I wanted this to be like a little starting point. I'm gonna bring this back up, but I just wanted to bring up this topic, and hopefully next time when I do this, I can better explain my thoughts. But I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. May I see you again, and until next time, my friends.